Okay, I want to talk about wall running in Monster Hunter Rise and how I feel it's underutilized and generally unimportant. Now, when Rise was announced and they showed off wall running, I was really excited because I like games with really good movement slash parkour systems. So I like games like Assassin's Creed, Mirror's Edge, Warframe, Prince of Persia, Titanfall 1 and 2, a game I played somewhat recently called Solar Ash, and, just games with really good movement, and especially wall running, because I think wall running is just really cool and it's a fun way of moving around. It's also my favorite edition that Rise made. If I had to pick between the addition of wirebug skills and wall running, I would choose wall running. However, I'm now going to talk about everything that I think is bad about wall running in Rise. The main thing that's bad about wall running is that it's a traversal tool, but just a bad one, when you have the ability to cross greater distances with the wirebug and palamute with little to no stamina cost. Wall running, on the other hand, drains stamina very quickly, which significantly cuts down how long you can wall run for. So wall running's main point of usefulness becomes allowing the player to simply get up to places that are higher than normal, so that way you can then use the wirebug to progress through the map very quickly. The problem with that is you have the palamute. If you couldn't ride the palamute, then wall running would have an important role in traversal, but palamutes allow you to quickly traverse the map without having to wall run or use the wirebugs. It's most often the case that using the palamute to get to the monster is maybe not faster than using the wirebug, but it's certainly less of a hassle. So that's the main issue I see with wall running, is that although it's a really fun and cool traversal tool, it gets outshined by the wirebug and palamute. Now, there is another thing that I think is missing when it comes to wall running, and that's application in combat. If wall running is the least effective travel tool out of all three options, then it should at least have some application for combat, just like the wirebug with the wirebug skills. Even the palamute has a combat application, aside from the standard things a companion can do, of course, but you can ride the palamute and attack the monster with the palamute. It's not an effective way of doing damage, but with how good it is for traversing the maps, that's a pretty good trade-off. Wall running, on the other hand, has nothing, which is unfortunate because it could have some really cool interactions between the player, monster, and the environment. Sunbreak added an endemic life called the Starburst bug, which attach themselves on walls, which you can then run monsters into, dealing more damage than normal and applying an elemental effect if there is one. The only problem is that monsters cannot activate them by running into them. They have to be forcibly knocked into the wall by the player via wyvern riding or the marionette spider. This is unfortunate because there's a missed opportunity for wall running to have a use case in combat, at least against certain monsters, particularly ones that like to ram the player, like Espionas, Tigrex, Baroth, and a whole host of other monsters. If monsters could activate the Starburst bugs by ramming into them, there could be a scenario where a monster is charging at you, so you wall run up the wall, only for the monster to ram into the bugs, dealing damage to them, and maybe even providing an opening for attack, which is another missed opportunity. When it comes to wall running, and this is something that World got right that Rise kind of failed with, there's no unique attacks when wall running. And World had unique attacks when sliding down slopes, which Rise removed. Hammer still has its sliding charge, but every other weapon's sliding attack has been removed. And I feel that it was a massive blind spot to not give wall running its own unique attacks for each weapon, so that having a skill like Wall Runner, which at level 3 gives you an attack boost for wall running, is actually useful. And if you add on to that unique environmental interactions with monsters and wall running, it would be really cool and interesting. And it wouldn't even be that strong since Rise saw fit to remove the skill that increases the damage of airborne attacks. So the chances of people spamming these attacks would be low, especially considering you can be knocked off the walls fairly easily. I just wish that wall running was a more integrated feature into the combat, or that it was the best or second best traversal tool available. Once again, I feel like not having unique attacks was just a massive blind spot by the developers, and that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I don't think that wall running is likely to ever get any unique attacks, unfortunately, although it would be extremely cool and it would also help with a problem that I see in Rise, and even to some degree with World, and that was mainly that with the removal of the planning section of hunts, or the preparation phase, I should say, where before you go into a hunt, you make sure you've got all your items, all that stuff. They've put a de-emphasis on that, and without anything to take its place, like planning out how you're going to tackle monsters, it feels like a part of the game's identity is missing. Because I feel like most people, when they go to fight a monster, they don't actually have a plan in mind for how to tackle it. They simply just go to the monster, start fighting, and simply react to whatever it is the monster is doing without having any type of plan of attack, like leading the monster to a certain area to, use certain things. I feel like the only people who really do that are speedrunners, who are trying to optimize damage, And I feel like there should be a bigger emphasis on planning during the fights if you're going to remove the necessity for pre-preparation planning. But anyway, that's a completely other topic. Anyways, that's everything I wanted to say about wall running.